Robert, we just heard from a few voters there. I mean, people saying that they, didn't really trust the mail-in ballot system. Can you shed a little more light on, why we experienced what we did yesterday?
Well, Hawaii set it up actually by just not setting up enough drop spots. Moving to mail-in voting makes sense. It's more efficient. It gives people more time. It gives people more opportunities. But doing that while cutting off the in-person voting, that was too extreme and too fast, and we're paying for it. I think it was a bad idea.
So moving forward, as taking a look at the next presidential election, because we do see higher voter turnout when we have a presidential race, trying to have more polling locations.
A lot more. Yeah, because, what do we want? We want to encourage and allow people to vote, and that means giving people as many options as you can, as much flexibility as you can. Some people like voting in person. It's a ritual. New voters might want the experience. Seniors are used to doing it that way. There's all this distrust in institutions, which is unfortunate, but that means also sometimes people want to vote in person. So we should let them.
Mm-hmm. And I know we did a few stories last week. There were issues with people receiving their ballots in the mail. So, some people who maybe would have done mail-in, they weren't able to because they just never received that ballot. So that might have contributed to those long lines. And of course, we're now feeling it this morning because usually by this time we have our second printout, which usually gives us a little more, confidence in what those results are. Right now, we still only have our first printout. So the results that we do have on our website right now, we've broken down a few of them for you this morning. Those could change.
Right, it's the exact reverse of what we expected yesterday. We thought the national race would be undecided for days and that we would know everything about the state. Instead, we don't really know about the state, and we know everything about the national race outside of the House. So,
let's talk about the House, because I'm hearing some predictions that it could be days, it could be weeks. I think one person even said it could take a month for us to truly know who is in control of the House, because right now Republicans have taken back the Senate.
And taking back the Senate is a huge victory for Trump. It will allow him a lot more leeway to appoint cabinet officials who are loyal to him, instead of maybe a more consensus kind of choices for a larger constituency. And it will, of course, give him even more influence over the federal judiciary, which has already become the most conservative branch of American government, as it was for a lot of American history. So that's a big deal for him. If he gets the House too, that means it's much harder for Congress to kind of investigate and conduct investigations. It also means some of his tariff and tax policies that should be very good for companies, and the wealthy will have a greater chance of getting through.
And let's talk about some of those things he has, on the campaign trail promised voters. Day one, what can he do right away? He's talked about mass deportations. He's talked about putting RFK Jr. on health care. As you mentioned, tariffs.
I mean, in some ways, I think those like liberals who are really so fearful of a Trump presidency might ironically find some solace in the fact that he tends to be so erratic and impulsive that he may not get as much done administratively or certain legislatively as might be possible in more capable hands. But in foreign policy, he'll have a lot of leeway. He may be more effective in administrative rulemaking. His first term, he was really unsuccessful in that regard. So the EPA and other agencies and climate, there could be a lot of rollback.
And, we're now talking about how do you unify a nation? And he talked a little bit last night about doing that, but how do you think he can go about doing that?
I mean, he did say all of those. He kind of hit similar notes to past presidents when they become president-elect of unifying the nation, but he's done that on occasion before. That's not generally his style. I don't expect him to be an entirely different type of person. So, he's a divider, not a uniter. And he's been that way for a long time. So we're going to have 4 years of a lot of tumult. And I don't think that's actually what people voted for. People voted out of frustration with the economy more than they voted for him, I believe.
And we'll break down some more of those frustrations that you think voters are experiencing, which is what we're seeing in the results this morning. That'll be coming up.